So we are quickly approaching the 1 year anniversary date when we received the news that the Oklahoma Sooners and the Texas Longhorns intended to leave the Big 12 and head for the SEC, a move that when you think about it from a monetary perspective absolutely makes sense. You're talking about two institutions in Oklahoma and Texas that find themselves amongst the top revenue earners in college football, moving to a conference that not only garners so much attention but so much revenue. So from that perspective, it absolutely makes sense. But today, we need to revisit the topic because according to a new recent report, the Texas Longhorns and the Oklahoma Sooners are unlikely to leave to the SEC before 2024, and we need to break it down. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from you. Hop down to the comments. Give me a Y for yes, N for no. Do you believe that the report is accurate and that the Texas Longhorns and that the Oklahoma Sooners will be in the Big 12 until at least 2024? And let me know what you're thinking. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed this content, like and comment down below. Those interactions are massive to content creators such as myself in both getting picked up and maintained by the YouTube algorithm. However, with all of that being said, let's hop right into this because this is something I am incredibly interested in. And when the news was announced that Texas and Oklahoma were moving from the Big 12 to the SEC, it shook the college football landscape. So this is something that not only am I watching, not only are the conferences watching, you're talking about the eyes of the college football faithful watching this move because of the deep implications it carries. And there's a few layers to this, and we're going to start at layer number one, which is what the report was really talking about. Because in this report, Chip Brown of 24/7 Sports was saying that money is going to be an issue in this move. In his opinion, the Texas Longhorns weren't going to have any problem paying the $80 million required to make this move in order to buy out of their current contract, but he said that the Oklahoma Sooners would have a tough time doing so and that they wanted to wait and figure out how to finance it. So that right there was interesting in and of its own right. And look, let's get one thing straight. Texas has money. Like, Texas has so much money it makes your head spin. However, if I'm sitting here and looking at this holistically, do I really believe that $80 million would prevent the Oklahoma Sooners from pulling the trigger and making the move to the SEC? Though I have no sources from the inside, this is just my opinion, I have a hard time believing that, and here's the reason. Because in December, the Oklahoma Sooners approved renovation plans for their facilities that are reportedly totaling $16 million. Now, $16 million is a lot of money. It's not $80 million. But the reason I bring that up is I have a hard time believing that if Oklahoma was really in a situation to where they couldn't afford to make this move, and they were really stressed about how they were going to finance it, they wouldn't be approving stadium renovations that are costing a chunk of the money that would be required to make that move. Secondly, we have to understand that there's so much money to be made on the back end of this that if they really wanted to make this move, they'd pull the trigger, both institutions here. If they wanted to make this move, they could and would pull the trigger. Now, look, I'm not saying that anybody wants to drop $80 million in one sitting. That's not my intention here. But what I'm saying is there's so much money to be made on the other side. And these institutions, even though they're education-based, as time has gone on, they've become far more profit-based than they once were. And the profits that the SEC can promise are going to be tempting, and that's the reason why we're in the situation that we're in. And so, do I agree that Texas is in a better situation to pay that money than Oklahoma? Sure, Texas is in a better situation to pay that money than almost every institution in the nation. They have so much capital that they can utilize. But with that being said, when you look at the structure of how universities get their money, the money that's made through the process of athletics and the money that is to be made from the move to the SEC. And another thing, the other layer where this gets really interesting is the teams that are coming into the Big 12. Because whenever Texas and Oklahoma announced their move from the Big 12 to the SEC, the Big 12 was put in a precarious position, and they were forced to look elsewhere to try and fill the holes that were left from their two biggest brands. And I have to give it to the Big 12. They got great teams to come and join their conference. Teams that I think are going to add a lot to that conference. They're going to become much better, and it's just going to be great for entertainment. But the teams we're talking about are BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF. So big name teams making their entrance into the Power Five, and I cannot wait. But the interesting thing about this is, will there be overlap? Because now we're talking about a situation that many people thought Texas and Oklahoma would be on their way to the SEC. Maybe this offseason, if not next offseason. Now we're looking at a situation where this could be 2 years in the making, possibly 3 years in the making if they fulfill their contracts, which have them a part of the Big 12 until 2025. The last thing I'm going to talk about in this video is talking about Greg Sankey, because here recently when he was asked about how he handled the move that Texas and Oklahoma wanted to do to the SEC, he admitted that he may not have handled it the best, and maybe transparency wasn't at the point where it could have been, pretty much while referring to Texas A&M being out of the loop on the move. And this right here was entertaining to me for a few reasons, and it really reminded me of two scenes from South Park. First and foremost, it reminded me of whenever the kids are going to the cable company trying to figure out how they can get a better deal, and the cable company just keeps looking at them and saying, "I'm sorry. We're sorry. We're sorry." Because when Greg Sankey was up there, he was apologizing, saying, yeah, communication could have been better. But it was one of those situations where it was like, yeah, you caught me. I'm going to say I'm sorry. But at the end of the day, we just made a massive deal. So what do you want me to do? And that's why it was a little bit entertaining to me. But possibly the biggest thing I'm interested in all of this is what the SEC is going to look like when Texas and Oklahoma make their entrance to the league. Because you're already in a league that has a lot of teams, that has a lot of quality depth, and it's pretty figured out in the structure of the league. But you're adding in 2 more brands that's only going to be a net positive for the league. I'm just interested to see how they're going to align the SEC, what it's going to look like, and what the future holds for that league. But you're talking about a league that now holds some of the top money makers in the sport in terms of college football, and because of that, it is going to be high value entertainment all year long, and I can't wait. But I'm very interested in hearing from y'all. Hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.